Buckle up, everyone. We're going to talk aliens, UFOs, ghosts, spiritual and paranormal. From all of the three moons, beyond your wildest dreams. Nice.
TruthSeekah and or its affiliates are not responsible for any strange phenomena that may occur during or after listening to this podcast, which may include the following: heightened senses of awareness, psychic abilities, UFO sightings, alien contact, time loss, out-of-body experiences, ringing in the ears, ESP, lucid dreaming, increased synchronicities, astral projection, telepathy, stronger intuition, levitation, miraculous healings, and or remote viewing. Please be advised to listen at your own discretion.
Won't you come and take me away? I just wanna be with you. Won't you come and take me away? To a place to walk on troubled seas, faith to stand when I don't believe. I just wanna be with you. Won't you come and take me away? I just wanna be with you. Won't you come?
You are now locked into the TruthSeekah Podcast.
Gargoyles! Psychics! Everything's ungodly! Dark's at it!
Streaming live at TruthSeekah.com.
She's not a Christian!
Give it up, y'all.
Your portal to the paranormal, esoteric, and all things spiritual.
She's tampering in Dark's at it stuff!
And now, your host, TruthSeekah.
Hey, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? I'm your host, TruthSeekah. This is the TruthSeekah Podcast. Man, excited, delighted as always to be with you guys for another episode where we cover all things spiritual, leaving no stone unturned, man. Excited about today's conversation, today's topic, today's guest. It's going to be really good. Make sure that you guys stay tuned. I want to give a shout out to everybody listening live on whatever platform you're listening on right now, whether it's Facebook, Periscope, YouTube, Twitch, wherever you are, man. Shout out to you guys and everyone else listening on the podcasting apps as well, all over the world, man. Shout out to you guys. You guys are troopers, man. And also, another shout out to everybody supporting my work via Patreon. This is a listener-funded, listener-supported show. And I couldn't do this without your help, man. You guys are co-creators. And I thank you guys for believing in what I'm bringing to the table, believing in this work and helping fund it. You guys are awesome. We give a shout out to some of the latest patrons this week or so. Somebody just joined and I didn't see the name. I'm sorry. I'm probably had to catch you on the next episode. But within the last week or so, shout out to Jeffrey Walsh, man. Thank you for coming on, believing in the work. Thank you for your generous donation again to the Homeless Project and that outreach that we're doing, man. It means the world. Shout out to Patricia Benjamin. You rock as well. Gene Gonzalez and my new friend today, Matthew Condis. Shout out to you guys. Thanks for believing in the work. If you'd like to support, head on over to patreon.com/TruthSeekah. There you get access to my entire discography of music, which is 200 plus songs. You get access to our Thursday night School of the Mystics, which is the community aspect to what we're building here. We do guided meditations and breath work and tapping into our spiritual abilities and ESP and psychic abilities, if you will, spiritual giftings, all that good stuff. So if you're looking for like-minded people, community to roll ideas off of, join us on Thursday nights. You get access to all that stuff by signing up as a patron. So check it out, patreon.com/TruthSeekah. Also, for you guys who have not had a chance to get it yet, my new book is here, Spirit Realm, Angels, Demons, Spirits, and the Sovereignty of God, foreword by Jordan Maxwell. You can get that at TruthSeekah.com as well. Check it out. Without further ado, we're going to go ahead and jump into today's discussion. I'm welcoming my guest today, which is Jordan River from Spirit Science. Bro, how are you?
Hey, Truth. I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, such a blessing, man. So been signed up for your email list for some time, and everybody wants to know, like, how do you get your guests, man? Do you reach out to them? Do you got a publicist? It's like, I responded to an email. I got an email from you, been getting your emails for some time, and I just responded to one and said, hey, would you like to come on? And your people set it up, made it happen, and here we are, bro.
Yeah, I mean, I know that a lot of other, people in online companies and people, just have a very, very wide, like don't respond to every email and everything like that. And so I try and make sure that like my team is very on it, like on the day when, responding to people and being really attentive, because it's like the connection that we have with each other is one of the most important things. And especially, as far as like running a spiritual business as so it goes, it feels like it's just necessary and important. So I feel, thank you very much for sending that email out, and here we are.
Here we are, co-create, man. Awesome. I guess for people who don't know who you are, who aren't familiar with spirit science or your work, just kind of give a quick background about who you are, what you do, and bring to the table.
Yeah, so Spirit Science it started as a cartoon series that I was putting out on YouTube about 9 years ago. April 11th, 2011 was the first episode. And it was like a fusion of my love of animation, because I've been making cartoons since I was like 11 or 12. And my spiritual awakening, because that kind of hit me pretty hard when I was 19. And from there, I mean, it kind of just blew up, amassing a fairly large audience and set me on this path of like, what really are my dreams in a bigger sense, and where, like, what is this for? And so today, Spirit Science, it's like we have an animation studio, but we're eventually looking at actually setting up like a physical location, one day building a spirit center, like a community space for people to come and experience, like meditation, yoga, healing, ideally growing food, maybe even doing some plant medicine workshops and stuff like that. So it's a kind of a big, bright future with spirit science and everything like that. So that's kind of the whole thing in a nutshell. But I mean, there's a lot of content there, a lot of cartoons. So,
Yeah, I know you get messages every day and emails and stuff, how, your animations and your work are helping facilitate people's spiritual awakening to become conscious, to wake up, to focus on what really matters versus all of this external stuff out here that kind of get us blinded within the matrix. And your animations and cartoons just kind of move people to ask the bigger questions. And so when they're looking for explainer videos and looking for stuff on the internet about spirituality or Googling topics, most of the time they're going to find some of your videos and some of your work, and really does a good job. What was it for you early on getting started with your awakening process? Like, what was it for you? And even going back to childhood, did you have any paranormal or supernatural experiences that kind of burst something within you to be drawn to this work?
Actually, like, I mean, I think that when I was a kid, I was really drawn to a lot of animes and stuff that had, like that hidden mysticism in it, like Yu-Gi-Oh is very ancient Egyptian, and like a little bit of tarot cards mixed in there and stuff. But nothing really like stood out as like a big shifting event until I was 19. And it kind of was a two-pronged attack, I guess, from the universe. One was I met someone who introduced me to like The Secret and crystals and Reiki, and I was like, wait, there's energy like moving through us, like there's a chakra, like, I was just learning all this stuff, like what is all this? And so I just started like learning on that, and then I had this experience shortly thereafter, actually, that was like induced by cannabis, completely just out of the blue. I was having some cannabis with some friends after college one day, and it was like a lightning bolt just like shot from God or somewhere, just, like erupted in my mind. And it was for a blink of a moment that lasted an eternity. I was like looking at and saw, like, it was like everything disappeared. I was like, as if I was out of my body. And it was like I saw everything in the universe, everything in all of creation, every particle, every thought, every person, every plant, every planet was all connected into this like singular point. And it was so transformative. And I think that on some level, maybe it was like all of like, the two hemispheres of my brain, all this separateness, all connected to like my pineal gland. And it was just seeing. And this had never happened before with cannabis, and never happened in the same way. But it completely, like the moment that I was back, it completely set me on like a new course of life. It was like this definitive inner knowing that was like, there is something really magical about the universe and interconnected and interwoven, and it was almost as if I could see that like there was this unity, but people's like human consciousness was still fragmented. Like we weren't seeing the unity. And so from that like vantage point of like, wow, everything is one, I'm like, I feel some sense of responsibility to share it. And I guess this didn't make it into the, like we cut off before the this part of the story last time, but it was just really funny because the moment that I came back, I like freaked out in the car to my friend who was in the driver's seat. I'm like, oh my God, I understand everything. Like just completely kind of losing it in a way, you know, like, and she's like, oh, you inhaled for the first time, didn't you? And I'm like, I don't think that's what this is. And it was just like such a funny moment. But like, it's still like, after I had calmed down and was like present.
6 weeks later.
After I calmed down from that, it was just like, I like any interest that I had before in all of this stuff just was like solidified and widened. And I just started reading and learning and like looking up astral projection and Gnosticism and what is this, what is that? You know, it's like all these terminologies, chakras, I had to learn it. And it was, I just went from there. And then spirit science was born shortly after, like within about 3 or 4 months of that point.
What year was that?
That was at the very end of 2010. And then Spirit Science launched April 2011.
A lot happened in that 3-year span from like 2010 to 2013. And, you know, from 2012, dealing with 2012, like a lot of people, you know, the whole Mayan calendar thing, you know, a lot of people think that that's where we are now. But one thing was for sure, you know, the promo and ancient aliens and all of those things, there was a bunch of stuff. Avatar, the Last Airbender, Avatar the movie, you know what I'm saying? Like all of these things came out at that same time, and The Secret was really big then too, and there was definitely a shift in consciousness that happened during those couple years there, and we're still like reaping the benefits of seeing more people wake up collectively and be inspired and step in their calling, and looking up spiritual techniques, and breath work is big, and Wim Hof is getting huge, and all of these things collectively now. And so it's interesting to point a lot of that stuff back to art, to movies and things. I can name so many movies. The Matrix is a big one that a lot of people name, and Lord of the Rings, and so many that assist people in their awakening, and music as well. And you know, I'm a part of that with the music and paying it forward for music that helped me. Was there any music for you like early on? Did you find a band that really got what you were saying, whether it was Tool or Nako or something like that?
Yeah, actually, I mean, I didn't discover him until 2012, but Elijah Ray and the Band of Light, like his work was just so resonant. I really, really connected with him. I saw him live at an event called Lightning in a Bottle, which was like a sort of a conscious music festival. Like it was like a music festival, but they also had like spiritual speakers that were, you know, and lots of sacred geometry art displays and stuff, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of stumbled upon him by accident in the middle of the night one night, and was just like blown away by his music, and caught a little bit of it on video, which was enough for me to like Google the lyrics and find him. And I've just been completely in love with his work ever since. And then, yeah, like Nako and a lot of the, like the ceremony music, like the Ikaros and stuff like that, also has kind of come and gone throughout my journey in pretty profound ways. But I would say Elijah was like the first really definitive music that I really, you know, like spiritual music that I got into.
Yeah, that's what's up, man. Art plays a big role, always has, always will. Huge. And, you know, it's cool that, you know, Alex Gray and people like, he's like training people on how to do this type of visionary art, to go within and draw what they're seeing in the spirit realm and destiny wise and etheric light bodies and stuff like that. And I mean, I try to do that through hip hop music and describe these things, that kind of that inner visionary journey, and go in and I feel like a true shaman is one who's able to go in and take those journeys, even if it's through the dream state, take those journeys and be able to bring something out and say, here, I brought this for you. I want to show you something that I encountered, whether it's some type of deep, profound truth that you paint, or, you know, put in a song or something.
We're back. Sorry, you froze for a second, but I caught the beginning and the end of that sentence.
Yeah, I was just talking about just the power of art and really being a true shaman, one who's able to go into the dream state, or whether someone goes into a plant ceremony journey and is able to bring something out and present it to someone. Like, hey, I want to show you this. I brought this for you. Going in on those journeys and taking something with you. Like, we can all go on journeys and have our minds blown, but it's something different when we're able to pull something out of that state, you know?
Right, and share it. I feel like what you're touching on too is something really important that I'm very I'm very interested in learning about science as well as spirituality and that's spirit science. But the mainstream scientific thinking is often very reductionist in looking at the world from a very materialistic perspective. However, the perspective of consciousness and conscious experiences and your direct experience in the world has such a profound effect on the totality of what we create in life and how life works. And there's actually it's called the big problem in science because they don't understand consciousness. And they try and fit it into a box and say, well, consciousness, is like a result of the material mechanism, right? But you can equally make the argument on the other side and say, well, but consciousness is this intrinsic thing to the universe and all of life, because that's kind of self-evident by looking at any form of life, really, like some level of conscious awareness, that consciousness that's moving through it, right? Like it's almost as if it's like a soul force potentially. And that's something, of course, we don't fully understand, but it's like when you take science and you isolate it from art, what you have is a very purely mechanistic perspective of the world. But when you add art into it and feelings and emotion and thought and like all of that, it like enriches the experience of life. And that's something I think that if scientists, especially just mainstream scientists, took a little bit more respect towards and appreciation towards, we might actually make leaps and bounds forward in terms of our understanding of things, because that's very much separated from the scientific model, very, generally speaking. But the interesting thing is like even in quantum mechanics, we're looking at how like your observation or observation in general can affect things and affect the outcome of an experiment and the outcome of an experience. And that doesn't also, we also have Dr. Bruce Lipton, who, through his work, The Biology of Belief, showed that your perspective, your direct experience and beliefs will affect how your cells receive energy and information and signals from the outside, from the environment and whatnot. So like, this is something that's so critical and I think significant for us to really, face as a global species and be like, look, like if we believe that we're limited and, we're going to destroy ourselves and this and that, it's like we're literally programming our bodies to create that reality. And if we're doing that in mass, then we're collectively in mass moving in that direction. And that, by changing our beliefs, changing our perspective and our experience of the world, we can have a fundamentally different world so quickly as a result of how we're experiencing life and then how we're creating into the world as well.
You talk about this different world and even some visions that you have even for your own center and things like that. And what about the work of Jacque Fresco and the Venus Project? Have you been inspired by that at all? Because I look at some of the imagery and some of the buildings and structures and some of the animations and art and stuff in your videos, and it looks like it's inspired by Jacque Fresco. And recently, last week or so, I've been watching a lot more Jacque Fresco, and his work on all levels was super profound. Did his work impact you at all?
Yeah, absolutely. It's so funny that you bring that up. I don't know if you've seen it, but literally 2 days ago, we published a video called A World Without Money, based on resource-based economies. Yeah. And we talked about the Venus Project in that and kind of how a resource-based economy would work. And the whole, like, we have a money series talking about spirituality. And
I just signed up. Yeah.
Yeah. And not just the course, but like there's a whole cartoon series on YouTube about it. And I feel like it's one of those things where, especially in the spiritual community, it's kind of like a damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of thing, because like there's a strong audience that resonates with the material, but there's still a lot of people who are upset. And, we're talking for much of the series, we're talking about how to, change your financial relationship with money and your spiritual relationship with money and, or I guess change your financial paradigm in the existing system. And everyone was complaining like, well, not everyone, but there was a large a number of voices on the comment section complaining like, oh, the old system is all broken. We have to move to a new system. We need resource-based economies. So I was like, perfect. We'll make a video about resource-based economies as part of the plan. So when we did that, then we got, no, this is capitalism is better. like more people complain. It's like on both sides, you've got people, kind of railing against the whole thing. So yes, in that video, we talked about Jacque Fresco and the Venus Project and kind of how it worked and what's required to get us there. Because like, I find that one of the biggest challenges that we have is that, what happens if you have this sort of resource-based economy where there's a little bit more equality between, like what resources are available to everybody, but then you've got like maybe 20% of the population doing 80% of the work, because this is a common statistic inside of companies and businesses, is some people just put in more effort and are more engaged in their work, and some people are just kind of like, I'll do the minimum work and whatnot, right? And so there's this imbalance, and then you start getting into the concepts of, like this whole socialist kind of, thing. And of course, that's a scary conversation to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And or communism, right? And I'm not trying to suggest any particular outcome, but just looking at like these are some of the problems that we're going to have in shifting. But it's clear that a shift is necessary. And I think that Jacque Fresco, with his designs and his intention and what he was really going for, he really nailed it in terms of getting an idea out there that, it sparked inspiration for people, because you can't hit a target that you can't see. So he was like making a target for us collectively to be like, this is something we can aim towards. And maybe it doesn't work, in all of the specific ways that, like this utopian sort of way, right? We don't want to get too far into the whole like Brave New World kind of concept of the future, but at the same time, this like beautiful, just sacred geometry, magical, I don't even know how to describe it, future reality where cities are designed in harmony with each other and with nature is a really beautiful idea. And that's something that absolutely is very inspiring to me.
It's scary when you talk to a lot of people about it, again, because they know the system's flawed. They know it's broken. Capitalism, it has its flaws. It's not perfect, but it's the only one structure that works. But I'm like Jacque. I listen to a lot of Jacque, and he's just like, I don't need a shovel, and my neighbor needs a shovel, and his neighbor needs a shovel. Why do we all have shovels? He can use my shovel. I only use mine like once a week. Why do we have to make another shovel, give it to him? He has to have a lawnmower. I got a lawnmower. Everyone on our street has a lawnmower. We cut our yards once a month or whatever. You can use mine when I'm not using it. We don't have to keep like making this stuff so that these people at the corporation have a job to keep making stuff and selling you things that are going to break down that you don't need. What is it? Product obsolescence, is it? Where they make products to break on you so that they can stay, keep selling it to you. Bic razors was the biggest one who understood this, that we'd sell you disposable razors versus selling one razor that you can keep sharpening and keep shaving. You can sharpen it every time you use it, but no, you use it and you throw it away, and then when you need more, we'll sell you some more. So it's this idea that, listen, we can easily get over these things, but capitalism, and so people are complaining, but we got to put our heads together. And I don't know if you would call it socialism. That's the closest thing that I know that it looks like. And, Jacque also talks about the Native Americans and the way that they just shared things. And if they wasn't using it, look, you can use it. If I'm not using my canoe, there's no reason for me to hide it from you and put it in the shed. Come get it. You guys want to enjoy my canoe or my kayak? Come get it. We're not using it. No, you might break it, or tear it up, or it's mine, it's not yours, it's ours. It's really about a community, and that's what's changed a lot as well, even with our neighborhoods and stuff. It's this, we've moved from this tribal culture to separatism, and we don't even know our neighbors, on people on the same street as us. It's strange.
No, it's true. That's even true for me. I don't know that I know my neighbors.
I know.
and it's, I completely agree with you, man, though, man. Like, it's we live very divided. We live very disconnected from each other and from nature, and something has to change. And I think that it's one of those things too, where it's like, this shift is not going to be like this clean shift from one thing to another. It's probably going to be really
come
messy.
Everyone. Let us usher in the new age. Follow me.
it's probably going to be messy, but that's okay. I feel like, there's this fear of stepping into something, because what if it doesn't work at first? What if we set up, the first Venus project, kind of, that resource-based economy, and maybe it's not perfect, and it's like, well, that's okay. Like the first iPhone wasn't that had bugs, like the first computer had problems, the first car had problems, and it's an iterative thing where if our intention is clear, we can keep working in that direction of solving the problems and getting us there. And it's the fear of stepping into something new that keeps us limited. And we have to be okay with making mistakes. We have to be okay with failing in order to figure out like what not to do. And as long as we're on that path, then I think we'll get there. It might take some time, but I think I feel very strongly like we'll get there.
Do you think that all the changes that we're seeing right now, and maybe COVID's a part of it, maybe the civil unrest and all of this stuff that we're seeing, the people uprising and wanting change, like they're starting with very exoteric things, that symbolisms and stuff like that, tearing down architects and stuff that remind you of oppression and those they just begging for change. And I feel like we've always seen this with the evolution of civilizations or the demise of a civilization, and statues, people, leaders come and go. I feel like this is something organic. I think that the people are crying out, and this definitely has its problems, right? On every front, it's not perfect. It's messy, a lot of stuff going on. But do you think that this is like the birth pangs or the catalyst for change?
100%. I mean, you've said it really well. Birth pain, like the process of birthing is an arduous undertaking, often fraught with intensity, right? It's not just like, oh, it's a
baby don't just show up. What's up, everybody?
Yeah.
You gotta carry it and cultivate it and be careful for 9 months, and take precautions, all kind of stuff.
And there's this whole like this idea that what's happening now is we're going through at least the first of several apocalypses, or maybe the beginning of a big apocalypse. But when you look at the definition of apocalypse, it literally means a lifting of the veil.
Yeah.
And so, it's very synchronous that, this is all happening in 2020 with COVID and the social unrest and everything, because the idea at the very beginning of the year, we're like, it's 2020. That's like 2020 vision. Like we're going to see really clearly what's going on. And it's like, oh, we're seeing it. We're actually getting to see where many of the problems in society are. People are crying out, as you described. And often the way that it goes, and this is very true even in like plant medicine ceremonies, is that you can't heal something unless you shine a light on that area that's been dark for a long time, right? Like you have to shine the light there and bring it up into your consciousness in order to work with those energies. Otherwise it just, stays in the dark. And I think all of this stuff that's happening right now is like, it's coming up, it's coming out for us to see it and to heal it at every level, right? Because there's the social unrest, there's the COVID, and then there's all the conspiracies about it. There's Epstein and like that, like everything kind of
Q
coming
stuff
up
all over the place. Interesting.
It's huge. Yeah. So, what's so interesting to me too, is I have friends in the UK and in, like Germany and stuff. And they're talking about world events that I've never even, I don't even hear of on this side of the world, right? Like stuff happening with Syria, stuff happening with in like Lebanon and stuff. And it's like, it's crazy because I feel like we're very isolated, even though we have the internet and everything like that. The news is very tailored to showing you what's in your kind of local environment and whatnot. So North America, Canada and the States are pretty much getting news for Canada and the States.
Yeah.
And not seeing all of these other big changes that are happening in these other much older parts of the world.
Yeah, it's interesting. That's when I kind of knew that whether it was real or something's up for sure. When I was interviewing people on here, and I'm talking to people all over the world. Like I'm talking to people in Jamaica, and they're on lockdown. And I'm talking to people in the villages in India, and they're on double lockdown, and they can't even leave their homes. in India, and it's like, man, this is literally a worldwide thing that's being implemented. Whatever it is, it's worldwide. It's not just America, and it's not just about the elections. This is worldwide. If it was just you think it would be isolated if it was just about the elections. But in India, you can't leave your home. It's I don't know what's going on. I've got some theories and some inklings and stuff, but can't really put my finger on it. Now that we're kind of on this topic, I don't really get into a lot of conspiracy stuff like that, and this isn't to lead way to a conspiracy. But what are your thoughts on these two men in particular? And maybe we shouldn't even say their name in the same breath. I don't know, but Bill Gates and Elon Musk. My hope is that they are true humanitarians. I really like a lot of the stuff that Elon Musk is coming out with, some of the solutions. And you talk, if there's anybody who has the money, the ingenuity, and the know-how, or the want to make a Venus project, it would be Elon Musk getting behind something like that. Do you think that these guys are humanitarians trying their best, using their resources, or are they antichrist here to deceive the masses to receive the mark of the beast?
Yeah, that is a dangerous conversation because I feel like no matter which way that I go, there's gonna be
I know, right? Angry. I can say but I hope. I think my hope is, not even a stance. I think I hope this is what's happening.
Okay, so this is like whenever I look at anything, I try not to make like it's kind of the mindset of let's openly explore and believe everything and believe nothing at the same time, right? Like take both like in just exploring it as deeply as it goes. And let's separate them out for a second. Bill Gates, there's definitely some interesting things there, with his sudden shift into philanthropy 20 years ago or something like that, and going deep into vaccines and that whole thing. And it's weird because when I watch him and I listen to him, what I see is a person, well, and this could be just my lack of judgment and whatnot, but I see someone who feels very genuinely like he's doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And believes in what he's doing. And it doesn't seem like it's got a malicious intent. There is a part of me that feels like looking at all these connections, it might be one of those things where there's, some maybe influential people or voices that are kind of, talking to him or have convinced him of certain things and whatnot. And I don't know that this is, completely true or whatever. Maybe he is the guy that everyone says that he is. But it seems as though like he might be very innocently driving things down a path of getting things on that, on that wavelength of chipping everybody and the vaccinations and controlling everybody. And because that gets into this whole conspiracy of like what happens when everyone gets vaccinated, and then it maybe weakens our immune system, and then something else happens, and then it kills off a massive part of the population. Like that's part of that conspiracy. And again, I'm not trying to say that it's true or not. Like this is just, a lot of the voices that are out there and what they're speaking to. So Bill Gates, I mean, he's an interesting character, but I think that there's something there. There's a lot.
It's safe to say that they know things that we don't.
Yeah.
He knows things that we don't know for sure.
Very privy to, very high up their connections kind of thing with, the world elite, as we can put them. So on the other side of the equation, Elon Musk, my feeling is I feel a lot better about him. I feel really good about him. I feel like he is very maybe science and logic minded, but he is very innovative in that. And I feel like he really wants to help move humanity forward. And I'm just saying that by like what he's done. Comparing to Bill Gates, it's very preventative. Oh, we have to be aware that a big virus is going to come, right? And Elon Musk is like, I'd like to get us to the moon or Mars rather. And I'd like us to move away from cars that are just, destroying the atmosphere or whatever, right? Like, and I think that, just looking at like for anybody who actually looks at the difference between a Tesla, like the car, and then a standard any other car on the market in 2020, like a 2020 Tesla and 2020 Civic or whatever, the Tesla is light years ahead of everything else. Like you can literally fall asleep at the wheel while driving a Tesla, and you're almost guaranteed not to crash. The Tesla will actually like notice that you're asleep, especially if your hands fall off the wheel, and it'll just like gently pull off to the side of the road and kind of like wake you up or whatever, right? Like it's such a futuristic machine, not to mention, you know, like just how efficient it is energy wise compared to, you know, a gas machine. And I really liked on his podcast, or no, it was Joe Rogan's podcast that Elon Musk did, the first one that he did. He said, he was like, look, our intention with the Tesla wasn't to make a car or an electric car. Our intention was to make the funnest thing that you could drive. And that really just shows, I feel like, as far as like making something that's not just a money maker, it's just like making something really fun. Like all the little Easter eggs and stuff in the Tesla, like I really respect that. So my feeling on Elon is, if I agree, if anybody is to make a large Venus project thing, I think he would probably be a pretty good fit for at least providing a really solid framework or like technology base with which to do that with.
Yeah. I think so too. I like a lot of the stuff. It's scary. Don't get me wrong. You know, any change is scary, you know, but it's interesting for sure. Some of the ideas that he has.
There's also the whole, I mean, this is where, again, you get into kind of conspiracy world, but the whole like Neuralink and connecting, you know, us to technology. The challenge is, and this is again, like kind of relating both with Elon and the world, is regardless of whether Elon's involved or not, we're kind of moving in that direction anyways.
Yeah.
Like
there's going to be lying to yourself to think that we're not already there with our cell phones, you know, and the internet and you know.
It's going to get even crazier on the perspective, like, again, like, you know, not to relate too much back to the Joe Rogan podcast, although I really liked it.
It was a good one, for sure.
It was really good. And Joe was like, well, what's going to happen if, you know, one day, like, you know, they make like this, you know, robot eyeball that can help blind people see. Then blind people are going to start, you know, like having these surgeries where they scoop out their eyes and put in these eyes, these robot eyes, but now they can see, but then they can see better than anybody else. And then other people will be like, oh shit, I want one of those, you know? And like it, and so like that in and of itself, you can see the progression of how that would happen. And I feel like Elon doing that with like the Neuralink, it feels like, considering the inevitability, I would rather, based on everybody out there, I would rather have Elon Musk pioneer that first, as opposed to someone like Bill Gates or Microsoft or Intel or IBM or these like faceless companies, because they're faceless, because they have this crazy board of directors. Like with Elon Musk, at least you have like a personality. It's kind of like with Apple and Steve Jobs. I think it's the reason why I like Apple over Microsoft, is because it was really pioneered by this, you know, like a human, a personality that you can relate with.
Yeah.
And it's cool because Steve Jobs did quite a lot of psychedelics, and that was, he wanted to make a computer that had the visual experience of taking LSD. And so that's why we have these technologies that we have here today. And that's part of the thing that I'm a little bit, you know, really wary of Bill Gates on, is that like how he made his fortune was by stealing Steve Jobs's material and then, you know, mass producing it for these massive faceless companies. And that's how he became one of the richest people in the world. So that's, I mean, it's not creative by its nature. Whereas what Steve Jobs did, what Elon Musk did, that's, I mean, yes, they've created massive industries and companies, but they were creative. They made something new. They didn't just copy what someone else made and then make it cheaper and more available, because the quality goes down. And
there's a big difference there. There's a big difference there just with art in general, or creating something. And I talk about the reaction channels right now that are really big, and like people have more views than the actual video. Like they'll react to a video, and then that reaction channel has more subscribers and more views on the video of them reacting to a song or a video. So there's a lot of people who like to critique and expose and point out the wrongs, and they're essentially reaction channels. They're not really creating anything, bringing something to the table, but just pointing out the flaws and the stuff that is wrong that other people are doing with their original art and concepts and stuff that they have to bring to the table. I'm sure you get it all the time. I'm sure there's spirit science exposed in those kind of videos of people calling your flaws and pseudoscience and all those kind of things, you know.
There's a lot of that.
It's a difference when you actually, I don't respect it as much as if somebody birthed something that didn't exist. They created their own. Even if they did it, just do it in a way where you're not just like, you know, throwing up on it, someone else's creation. You're birthing something new, bringing it to the table, you know? Because it's hard. It's not easy to do that, to go into the ethers or to the mind or the imagination, cultivate it, manifest it, bring it to the table in a picture, promote it, whatever it is. It's hard work that they just get to easily critique with the push of a button.
There's a quote that I really like about this. I forget I forget who said it. I could probably find it pretty easily, but just for the sake of this podcast, it basically is this paragraph on how the credit goes to not the people who are in the bleachers screaming at the people on the field. It's really about, it's like, if you're in the field, you're covered in dust and blood and sweat and all these things, and like you're making a difference. Like that's really what it's all about, as opposed to just like the people who are in the stands of the sidelines of the game of life, if you will, and they're just like screaming out praise or hate towards the people who are actually playing the game. It's like those people will never know what victory or defeat feels like, and they'll never really be able to relate unless they themselves can get into the game.
It's interesting you say that. I'm in the Bible Belt. I'm in Alabama, and football is huge here. Alabama football, they're like usually number one almost every year, college football, and it's interesting because they're really big into it. Like it's almost like a religion. Like the fans and stuff, the clothing, the memorabilia, the who are you for, who are you against. It's a form of politics for them, and a lot of the people who are really big into it, they go around talking about the head coach of Alabama. They don't call him by his name. They call him Coach. Yeah, I was watching the news the other day, and Coach said that a lot of people they call him Coach, like he is their coach. Yeah, Coach said we're going to have a good season this year. I really like what Coach is doing, versus even saying his name, almost like a pastor or something. Like in church, they won't say his name. They just call him by the title. Pastor said this. But it's interesting with football and these people who didn't go to the school, but they root for the team. They call them Coach, like they're on the team. They feel like they're on the team. And so when they achieve the victory, they really feel like we did it. We did it. Not they did it. We did it. Kind of thing of picking your team and your side. I mean, Democrats, Republicans, we did it. We get it. We got them in. Like we came together and won. It's like there's this weird camaraderie of finding a movement, maybe, or finding something that you identify, or finding someone that speaks your truth that you identify. That's definitely big with the elections and politics right now. Is that like the people have painted these politicians to be their poster child, and like have made them like speak up for movements that they're not even a part of or don't agree with, but like he's our guy. It's like, no, he's not. No, he's our guy. And it's so strange when it comes to, again, politics, football, religion, all of these things. But people want to belong, man. People want to. I mean, we have our communities. They really resonate with what we bring out, and I think it's and if it's something that's like a tribe or a community of people that you find that you resonate with, thank God that it's something that it's of higher vibrational. It's about bringing change and changing people's life and inspiring people to do better versus like, scoring touchdowns or whatever, which is fun, right? If you want to get into that, I like a little football, but it's just this whole movement of picking your side and having a crowd. What do you think about that?
No, I mean, I think you said it really well. Specifically, people want to belong. And it's very interesting just to see that we're so divided in our consciousness and our ways of thinking that we don't strive to belong to the species. We don't belong, or belong to nature, to each other, to the, we're segmented into these groups, and often the groups are very combative against each other. The football example is a really good one. So is the political left and right, this and that, right? It's like, it's just so divisive. And I think, at this point, I guess where I've kind of fallen into it, because we can't rail on it too much as you described, because we also have communities. We Spirit Science audience,
but we don't play it. We don't. At least I try not to placate them against other communities and stuff. And
right, that was exactly what I was going to say. It's just like that
it's our enemies. We're going to kick their butt this week.
Trying not to go there.
Some do that though. Religion does that.
Completely.
100%. I'll come out of that. They definitely do it.
Yeah.
Today we're going up against the Muslim. Next week's the New Ager. Like literally, they do it for sure.
That's wild.
It is crazy. but it's
Yeah.
that's why I'm against doing it, because I've been there, so I'm really
Yeah.
vocal about staying away from that kind of stuff, unless it's destructive, lower nature, destructive, name calling, hurting people, like definitely got to call that stuff out, stay away from it, be good, those kind of things.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, just being for unity, being for compassion, just having that as like a foundation. I think at the very, like, one person at a time, if we're spreading a message of like truth, love, and authenticity, we just start to move ourselves in that direction. And the more that we speak to that and from that place, the more that resonance reaches people and people feel it, then they can start to live in that state too. We can all rise in consciousness together.
It's happening for sure. Slowly but surely, it's definitely happening. The way you explained that a while ago, are you a Tool fan at all? Do you listen to Tool?
Not too much, but I have heard them. Yeah.
Okay, they have a song called "Right Into." Are you familiar with that? Right Into.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, check it out when we get off here. The song is essentially about two angels in heaven having a conversation, and they're looking down on humanity, and they're looking at us like primitive beings, because like God has given us the earth, He's given us Eden, He's given us food and land and everything that we need, but everything He gives us, we divide it, we cut it in half, and we divide it into portions in our land. This is our land, this is our territory, this is my section, and those things. So it's called Right Into, and it's pretty interesting. So if you have a chance, definitely check that out.
Cool, I will.
Let me ask you about this, man. As far as like your influences early on, so you're big into art and animation and those kind of things. What were some of your influences? Did you ever get into the Homestar Runner series?
Dude, yeah. Okay, so Homestar Runner was, and this is interesting because I learned about it at a Christian camp that I went to like one summer, and there were like camp counselors who were like really good at like imitating Strong Bad, and people would be like, and doing references, and I'd be like, I have no idea what this is, but I have to check it out. When I got home, I was probably 12 years old. I started watching it, and that sparked me to start. I could be like, I can do that. I can make cartoons. Like if
Nice.
someone else is making these cartoons on the internet, I can do that. Homestar Runner was what set me on that path. Was like really like showing
so
me that
cool.
it was possible to make cartoons on the internet. And then from there, I found Newgrounds and Super Flash Bros and like Decline of Video Games, like all those like little series, Legendary Frog and stuff. Like those were all super
Jib
fun.
Jab.
That's probably very obscure for a lot of your listeners. I don't know.
Nice. Yeah. There's a lot of that stuff, like on E-Bomb's World, had a lot of early internet animations and really cool skits and flash games and stuff like that. Very innovative. Let me ask you about this too. So one thing I want to ask you about was your universe and your characters that you've created, and how that helps tell a story with maybe a form of allegory, if you will, or again, like I'm a Christian mystic, and I really look at the Bible in allegory, and these people represent different things about our psyche and our spiritual advancement and things like that. So you need people, you need characters, you need to look at the alchemist, and telling this story is really telling this inner journey that we're going through. But using a character, like what's the big thing with like telling a story with the character versus you, because you could easily come and share a lot of this information, which you do. You do a lot of talks and live streams and classes and stuff, but it was something about having your character patch and creating this universe that people get to learn and are learning about new characters, and they're seeing them as cartoons that maybe helps them to let their guard down, to open up a little bit more. But like looking at like mascots and things like that with like Smokey the Bear, all of these corporations that even have characters and mascots that sell us their product. What is it about creating a universe and having a mascot to tell your story?
That's interesting. For me, Spirit Science started like Patchman was a character that I had been playing with for a few years before making Spirit Science, and he was actually designed by a friend of mine. Like I didn't actually create Patchman in the way that most people think that I did. But for me, it was like I love animation and I love telling, like just making videos, and then this was sort of this inspiring. Like there was a series I was watching called Extra Credits, which was like video games as an art medium, and talking about video games as like yeah, just like how they can influence and change society and culture, and how video games are evolving as well. And I really like that series. And they did a thing where they raised the pitch of the voice, and I thought that was really cool. And that was something I borrowed for spirit science, and kind of was like, it inspired me in the creation of spirit science. And I never really thought about it as if back then, as if I was creating this universe and creating this, as if he was a mascot for this thing. I just was like, he's the perfect character to make these videos with. And I wasn't prepared to or interested in doing it like as a live action thing. And it was very interesting because back then, spirit science was very, like, there was a lot of people just really resonating with the cartoons, really resonating with the sped up voice, saying like, oh man, like I have ADHD and this is really helping me to, to like process information quickly. It keeps my focus, my attention. And I was like, perfect, it's a good fit. But then over time, there have been more and more people saying that they prefer the slowed down, my normal voice. People saying that they, wish that I wasn't hiding behind a cartoon. And I'm like, I never intended to be hiding. It was just the way that it all happened. So I'm trying to really find a balance right now between, being live action and showing my face and being present with people in that way, with just like talking at a normal rate. And then also still doing the spirit science and still having, that energy, because I think it's really valuable. I think it's really fun. But yeah, I am kind of in this crossroads right now of like, how, what's the right amount? Is Patchman's voice too fast? Is it not fast enough? Because I've slowed it down a bit. Like, he used to be faster, and I brought it down because people were like, oh, he talks too fast. So I don't know. There's like, there's a lot there. But I think, I never thought about it like a mascot and using it to sell things. It kind of became that now, I guess, because I've been really exploring what it means to run like a spiritual business, because I struggled financially and struggled with a lot of just like how to make spirit science for the last like 8 or 9 years, because I pushed away on the conversation of money in general, and I didn't want to look at it. But the result of that was like I didn't make nearly as many videos as I wanted to. I wasn't, I was constantly worried about how, where I was going to get my next meal, or where food was, like how I was going to be able to afford living and traveling or doing the things that I wanted to do. And so when I finally started to take the conversation of spirituality and money seriously, it opened up actually a lot of doors for how to provide more value for people. And so Patchman, I try to keep it balanced, where like Patchman will he'll do product launches if we have something really exciting that we've been working on, like the 7-day transformation. But like, otherwise, when you get to those pages, sometimes it's me and I'm like, hey, listen, I've got a thing I want to share with you, something we've been working on, so trying to find that balance. And I think that I'm at a point now where I'm just a lot more comfortable appearing on camera and appearing in person, as opposed to hiding behind Patchman, so to speak. Because when I watch videos of myself from 9 years ago, I'm like, oof, the ego on that one right there, just calling out myself. But yeah. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, that, and then I think it leads me to the next one. Do you think that that having Patch and having not hiding behind it, maybe hiding behind it, I don't know, but having the mascot, having kind of like someone else to point at, versus pointing at Jordan, do you think that allowed you to say things that you wouldn't have normally said or felt confident about? I'm saying that to tie in. I did a little documentary that I put together on this idea of the mask, right? The mask empowers us. Look at Jim Carrey, The Mask, and there's so many quotes in there like, when I put this mask on, I become something else. And I do voice work and stuff and characters that I make up too. And when I get into character, I can say things and talk to people that I wouldn't normally say, whether it's call somebody out or make fun of them, or it's part of that character. I would never do it. And I tie that into, people who use ventriloquism, who have the little puppets who will whistle at beautiful ladies and, gag them and just saying all types of stuff, just trying to like catcalling them and stuff that person, little shy, nerdy guy would never say. Because he's the introvert, but when he puts the puppet on, the puppet will say things that guy will never say. That tied into channeling, where you see people who like, let's channel the Archangel Raphael. He says you got good things coming to you. He wants to do this. There's a financial blessing. Because it's like a scapegoat in a sense that person I feel like could easily release that content and information and not use the channel, not give it Archangel, not give it Bashar, those kind of things, and just give you the information. But for some reason, I don't know if it's even something that opens up in our psyche that we just feel super confident to receive even new inspiration. But I feel like a lot of that stuff is deep down within us, but the scapegoat allows us to share it without the fear of repercussion. Anything to respond to that?
Totally. I can say definitively no for me. I can completely get how it's like, oh, well, I'm channeling Archangel Michael or Michael Jackson or whoever. I'm channeling this other entity, and that allows me to express myself. And maybe in some cases it's really legit and like this is what Archangel Michael's saying. And I don't want to that's its own conversation and probably a case by case basis.
Yeah.
For me, I can say definitively anything that Patchman was willing to talk about as far as spirit science goes, is something that I'm willing to talk about. And so that's like I'm not using Patchman to get a conversation out that I wouldn't already be open to having. I think maybe at first Patchman, it was like the easy and natural thing to do in terms of how to express those things. And again, like you just watch my oldest like videos from the same time, like blogs and stuff. And it's just like, oof, you're just, you're better when you're drawing things, it's like, that's just because that was my comfort zone. But any subject that I've ever talked about in spirit science, I'm more than willing to go deeper on. And I think like sometimes the biggest challenge with spirit science is the limitation of time, because sometimes, we only try to aim for like 8 to 10 minutes, maybe sometimes 12, maybe 8 to 12, somewhere in there as a video length, because there's often so much to talk about. And this isn't like a podcast where we just talk and we just go and we just do the thing. There's a lot of effort that goes into drawing all the things and editing with music and sound and stuff. And in order to get that weekly schedule, we kind of usually have to, just keep it simple in the nature of the conversation. And then what we've been doing lately is building upon those, where we have like a part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, and then we'll merge those together into a big movie. But like for example, like, we did this one episode recently called War and Spirituality, and it was after the social, the riots broke out, the social unrest really came out, and we had just taken a hiatus, and I was like, well, I feel like addressing this, coming back, is probably the best thing to do. And so there's a big conversation as far as war and spirituality goes, like. And, we can talk a lot about the peaceful protests and Gandhi and Jesus and like the turn the other cheek mentality, right? But for this one, we focused more on the conversation of where is there war in spiritual texts, right? Like in the Bhagavad Gita, we've got some stories there. We've got the Tao Te Ching, actually, which is one of my favorite books, often talks about how to be a good leader and help support a society. But it does talk about war and violence sometimes, and like when is it necessary? It's like a conversation in there. And so that was the angle that we took, of just like where is there war in spiritual texts and stuff like that, rather than what do other avatars say about how not to be. Like that's another video of its own. And so when we posted that one, there were people who were like, well, you didn't talk about Jesus. You didn't talk about Gandhi. You didn't talk about peaceful protests. You just talked about war. And I was like, well, yeah, because of what's going on in the world. It wasn't our intention to say that this is the definitive truth. We were sort of just exploring the idea and exploring, like talking about it and stirring the conversation, because that's often what these are about. And spirit science from the very beginning was never intended to be like, this is the way that things are. The intention was to say, look, like there's a lot to learn and a lot to explore. So let's talk about it, right? Like, I never claimed that everything in spirit science was definitive fact, or even that I agree with everything, because sometimes, like the Human History movie is one of the most popular videos that we've ever made. That one has a lot of ideas, and some of them are easier disproven. Some of them are kind of like, there's no way to disprove that, but it's kind of really out there. And it was like, yes, I know, but look at the story on the whole, and like, let's talk about it and let's explore. Maybe the ideas do break down in some ways. Maybe in some ways it actually explains a lot about human society. And it was really about just like exploring that conversation and trying to be really free of the dogma of this is how things are, like just more of like an open-hearted exploration. So when people call me out and make debunking videos, sometimes they're just really mean, and I kind of tend to ignore those ones.
Yeah.
But when they have something really valid to say, and they're like, oh, this is incorrect because of this, I'm like, oh, look at that. We made a mistake. We'll have to fix that or address it in a future video. Like there's so, because there's so many, there's a lot there. But at the same time, like sometimes we're also battling ignorance. Sometimes people will call out something that's like, well, quantum physics doesn't say this or that. And it's like, well, actually, quantum physics is such a mystery to all of us that we can't really definitively say yes or no, but let's explore the ideas anyways, just in case, because if we're afraid to explore new ideas, then we limit ourselves from really expanding and growing as a species. And sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction.
It's good stuff. I'm with it, man. You've been talking a little bit about just here and there, the resource-based economy and making money, being okay to put yourself out there, to ask for money, those kind of things. For this spiritual entrepreneur in this realm that we are right now, this capitalistic society, which if you don't work, you don't eat, but knowing that we have things that we can offer, whether it is intuitive counseling, guided meditations. I mean, I think the possibilities are even endless with that, the things that we can bring to the table to provide for our families and do service for people and things like that. For those out there listening who are wanting to get into some of this stuff, they feel like it's a million miles away because they don't think that they have anything to offer, or they feel like they can't charge for spiritual work. There's this notion that you're supposed to do it for free. Those kind of things. What would you say to people out there who are kind of on the fence? They want to do it, but they know that if they put it out there on Facebook, they just can't. They don't want to suffer the ridicule from their peers about charging for private sessions or healing or meditations or something like that. What would you say to encourage those people?
Yeah, totally. Well, this is. I'm happy you brought it up because it is really a sore point for a lot of people in spiritual movements and in spiritual communities, and myself included, for a really long time. And it, I think this is very just present in the consciousness right now because of these videos that we've been putting out there. But there's a couple things. First, we have to understand that money is created as a byproduct of value creation. It's not so much about asking for money. It's about inviting people to take an action, to invest in themselves. Because when someone is investing in themselves, they value it so much more than if they get it for free. If you just give a book to someone and say, here, read this, like there's really no telling if they're ever going to read it. Like you don't know if there's an interest there. But if someone actually spends money to acquire this book, you can, like, that's a demonstration that they're invested in it. They want to create, they want that thing and they're willing to exchange resources for it. So if you're creating value, you're really just creating a value exchange with people of like, I made this really amazing thing and I'm saying that it's worth this much, and here's this exchange there. There's another thing that actually, like Jerry said in an interview that I did with him. Jerry is the founder of Rhythmia, and because I interviewed him about we called it the secrets of spiritual business, because he also is like he runs the plant medicine retreat center, and it does cost money to go there, right? But it's like extremely high value, and I thought he'd be a good person to interview. What he said at the end was, life is hard enough as it is to without feeling ashamed of making a living. So like out in the world right now, money is made in all kinds of ways, different services, different, there's everything from, like grocery stores and there's too many in my brain, like from Netflix and like online video services and places where you get alcohol or get pizza or whatever. Like there's so many ways that people are offering value, but like how much value is there out there that's really for your soul? Like if you went to a downtown, any metropolitan area, like go to a mall and you look around, like you can get clothes and you can get shoes, and I guess those aren't clothes, but you can get all these different things, right? But how much can you actually get that nourishes your soul? There's really not a lot out there. So I think that it's a really important time to be having this conversation, because I feel like we need more spiritual entrepreneurs who are creating services and value for people that does nourish the soul, whether it's through guided meditations or plant medicine experiences, or even just like yoga studios and that kind of thing. Like there's so much, as you said, there's so many possibilities, and it's about us just being creative and like what kind of service, what does the world need, what can I offer, what is my calling to offer, and then going and doing that. Like I have a friend who I'm fairly close with right now, and she was talking about how like her dream for herself was to completely isolate from the world and just like live in a cottage in the woods that's covered in vine and grow her own food and everything like that. But after spending time with me and seeing how I, am operating and whatnot, and using technology as a tool, she's like, well, maybe there's a room for like she can create an apothecary and actually like grow these things, but then like, sell tinctures and sell, things that are of value to people and support society through creating, these kinds of things, little plant medicines, if you will. So it was very inspiring to see that shift within her, because I think that like, yeah, if you're called to it, don't be afraid to step into something like that. Whatever it is that you're really feeling in your heart that you can bring to the world.
Yeah, there's a lot of people asking those questions and stepping out, and plant medicines help getting that dream, that vision for yourself and your destiny, stepping into that. And it's scary. So confidence and what I'm saying, no need to reinvent the wheel. Look at somebody who's already doing it. Like you said, you gave yourself as an example. Hey, this is what I'm doing. There's nothing that's stopping you from doing the same and creating that life that you want for yourself. And a lot of people think like that. I've actually met people who live in the woods and have taken a vow of poverty, and so that's the life that they wanted. And, they operate like that, and more power to them,
If that's something that people want, and then yeah, exactly, all the power to them. Like do what you feel compelled to do, but just be very clear if the reason that you're taking a vow of poverty is because of an aversion to money, because we have to look at money as a part of the unified whole. Even if it's part, even if the system's corrupted or whatever, money is still energy. It's still a reflection of a value exchange. It's a reflection of energy that you can use in a very wide variety of ways. And if you can use it to destroy the world, you can also use it to make the world really, really beautiful and amazing.
100%. Talk a little bit about Spirit Science Live and your live streams and podcasts and all that kind of stuff that's coming out.
Yeah. So we have been working on just kind of, starting a Spirit Science podcast. There's been a lot of requests for that. I'm really excited about it. We're not doing it live streamed at first because we're still figuring out like how to do all of that. And I just, I'm getting set up with like a video camera that can connect to the computer so that it's not all through just like a webcam. But that's like something that, we're just kind of looking into. The first recording is going to be tomorrow, actually. And then, we have a YouTube channel called Spirit Science Live, and people can check that out. And over probably the next week or two, we'll start publishing them and getting them out there. And maybe we'll even shift into the live streaming thing, because I really like that you do that, like that this is actively live streamed onto, multiple channels at once. Like that's pretty cool. Like, that's something that I could see myself.
Yeah, they have their pros and cons on both. Like once you've been doing it for so long, because I've tried to switch to recording them and putting them up in snippets, which did really, really good as far as numbers and getting more eyes on it on shorter clips and segments. But the live stream community aspect is, hey, it's on. Time to tune in. Here's our show. Our show is on. Let's sit down and watch it together. We can interact. We can ask questions and those things, which is, again, having a tribe or a community, it really helps. The live chat and all that kind of stuff helps with it too. And also, too, one more question for you, just to talk a little bit about Spirit Mysteries and what you're offering there.
Yeah, so Spirit Mysteries was actually conceived in an ayahuasca ceremony, which was at Rhythmia. And I had this kind of week of visits, I guess, or working with the spirit of Thoth, that ancient Egyptian god of wisdom. And it was just so vivid and clear the entire time. But at the end of that whole experience, I was left with this feeling and this knowing in my heart and just moving through me that I had to create a mystery school. and like the name Spirit Mysteries, and even like the logo, it was all just like, it was just laid out for me very, very easily and clearly. And so Spirit Mysteries really has been this big, project over the last year of kind of getting, building it, launching it, getting it rolling and everything like that, and what courses we offer. So there's a lot in there, and we're really trying to provide courses and material on as much as we possibly can. Like there's a lot of requests for talking about different subjects. One of the things we started with was the tarot, because it's such a multifaceted, tool, I guess, that relates with, Kabbalah, Tree of Life, astrology, numerology, all of these things. And this is one of the cards right here. It's kind of on my wall behind me. And that's kind of where it started. But from there, we have workshops on, there's the new one that we just launched, Spiritual Money Mastery, which is really teaching people how, it's like a 9-hour workshop about this conversation we've been having, spiritual entrepreneurship and how that works. We also have the 7-day transformation, which is one of the I think most popular courses in there, which is like every day for 7 days, we guide you through this sort of transformational experience where by the end of that, like I want to say like 99% of people, if not everybody who goes through it, like I've seen nothing but really positive reviews and experiences from everyone who actually takes the course and finishes it. They see profound shifts and transformations in their life. But then we have a course on relationships. We have a course on, we have monthly gatherings, actually. So we have 6 monthly gatherings. One is on the full moon, one is on the new moon. And then we've got, every week we have like a live call on a Discord chat where it's kind of an open circle for people to talk and share and explore together. So there's a lot of stuff in there. And we're trying to make like a really strong, powerful, heart-centered community for exploring the mysteries of the universe and really moving us in that direction of like, well, what is ascension and what's going to get us there, and like, where do we need to get to move in that direction? And so that's one of the conversations that we have a lot of. But it's a really beautiful, beautiful place. Like the people who are in there and the conversations that we have, like I don't think I've ever seen another community just quite like it, who are so open and receptive to each other.
Yeah.
And so compassionate in how they engage. It's really cool.
It goes a long way for sure. Those are the people I want in my corner for sure. You know, man, good stuff. Have you read the book Primal Branding at all?
No, I haven't.
Primal Branding. Check that out too. I forgot the author, but Google it when you get a chance. Primal Branding. We got a comment here from Dave Volkner. Says, "What's up, family? Love this guy. First learned about his work from my son's 7th grade public school teacher. He had to watch one of his YouTube videos for homework. So they were a 7th grade teacher gave the class homework to watch one of your videos. That's pretty dope."
That's amazing. Oh my gosh. I wonder which one.
Yeah. Let us know, Dave, if you remember. But yeah. So if people want to sign up for your stuff, the Spirit Mysteries and that, get access to the Discord, is that all through membership? And so people want to know how to get in on that.
Yeah, it's all. So spiritmysteries.com is like kind of the homepage for all of that, and you can see links to. You can get some free downloads. You can get like the Emerald Tablets. We have a new edition of the Emerald Tablets available there, and the 7-day transformation and that kind of thing. Or you can just go straight to full enrollment and get everything. But yeah, that would be the main place to join.
For sure. Well, Jordan, man, I appreciate you coming on here, hanging out with me. Love your work, love what you're doing, and loved our talk. And I'd love to have you back on again, man. Enjoyed it so much. Thank
you so much. This was really great. I really appreciate everything we talked about and stuff. And I thought we'd get more into like Gnosticism and like other Christian mysticism kind of stuff. But maybe we'll save that for next time.
Maybe. What you want to talk about? I love it all, man. I love it all. Yeah. I know you're pressed for time and everything, right? Or what?
No, I mean I could do another.
You got a little bit.
Oh, like this is good. Yeah.
Christian mysticism, man, Gnosticism.
We'll do
your views on Jesus. See, I was going to ask you about aliens, angels, demons, spirits, and if any of those encounters, but you kind of gave me an example already as well with the ceremony and speaking with Thoth. Like that's speaking with a spirit entity and those kind of things. Have you had UFO encounters and otherworldly experiences with angels and things like that?
My experiences with, I haven't seen too many actual like UFOs. A few that I thought could have been, but also might have been very, very bright satellites. But actually my experiences with like ETs and stuff mostly is in meditation, and a little bit in ceremony, but like sometimes I can just sit in meditation and I'll be working on something. Lately, I've been exploring kind of activating a 3-stranded DNA and exploring what that would be like and how that would work, because, it's like, that's a thing that in science is like, doesn't exist. But I had this experience just as like I guess an example was the other day I went for a walk and I found myself on this really nice cliff overlooking kind of the valley that I'm in. And so I was sitting there and I've been, because of the experiences with Thoth, I had this new Merkaba that he showed me at one point, or kind of brought into my being, and it had a 3-stranded DNA. So that was like a part of this meditation that I've been working with for a long time. So I was sitting there on the mountain and just meditating, and I was seeing this DNA spiral, and then suddenly I was in the presence of these two kind of ET looking beings, and they were like, one of them passed its hand through this DNA visualization that I had, and as it passed through, the double helix was stayed firm and didn't move or didn't change, but the third strand kind of became like fuzzy and wiggled around, and they were like, look, this one's not solid yet, so you have to keep working with this meditation in order to actually like ground it in and make it physically manifest, because right now it's just very crown chuck, it's just very at the top of your awareness sort of thing. So you have to just keep being with that. And so I've had experiences like that on occasion, and I feel like there was this came up in the Spirit Mysteries Spirit Circle call one time, which was like our group chat, that in order to, like, if you really want to make a contact with any kind of entity or being, it goes back to that ask and you shall receive, and so if you open yourself up to connecting with a benevolent force or a guide or an avatar or ascended master, whoever it is, that you can bring them into your reality. Like I've spent a lot of time like reading the writings of Thoth or the writings of Hermes, and the Hermetica and all this kind of stuff. And so I think that kind of primed the experience to have such a vivid experience with Thoth in the first place. And I've had similar things with the Spirit of Christ. Like the first time that I ever did ayahuasca, I actually had set my intention on, I said, I want to embody the Spirit of Christ. Like I want to feel that Christ consciousness and know what that is. And I had this very profound and transformative, very healing experience. And at one point, after a lot of this purging and old energy came out, there was this like Christ consciousness sphere. Like it was like the Spirit of Christ. It had the cross and was an ankh and was radiating and it was on fire, and it was light. It was just this vibrant life that kind of descended down from the heavens and was like landed in my chest. And it was what I was told. And in this moment, it felt like, was this Jesus? Was this Spirit of Christ talking to me, or what? Where did this voice come from? But it was like this, telepathic voice saying, "This is like a seed. Like this isn't just, oh, you're now an ascended master. Haha. Like don't let this go to your head. This is a seed. You have to nourish. You have to support. You have to allow that spirit to grow right within you, to blossom. And this is something that everyone can experience if they open themselves up to receiving that. And that's the biggest point of contention that I often have with Christians who are more on the Orthodox side, very definitively, Jesus is outside of me and he's coming to save me. And I feel like, well, that Christ-like spirit is something that we can all connect with. And maybe Jesus is, like watching over us from another dimension, and maybe he will come down on a thundering clouds and everything like that. And like, that would be beautiful. But I feel like, whether that's true, whether that happens or not, we can best be prepared for it by aligning ourselves with that energy, with that spirit, with that consciousness, right? So that's kind of the route that I took. And what was amazing was that since then I have seen so many people both in ceremony and like in comments and stuff like that, of people saying like, wow, like I really connected with the spirit of Christ or the Christ consciousness. Like it's in me, I feel it. And so that really also gave me a really strong sense of that community, that it's like, okay, this isn't just me. This isn't just that, because we've talked about this in the New Age circle for a long time, but being able to see and bear witness to other people going through that same shift and transformation that I did was just like, yeah, like it's just heart-centered consciousness. It's like this higher next level of where we can live from. It's like this new place within us that, will give birth. It's really like, change yourself and you change the world. This is the place from which we have to operate if we want to live in a world that is heaven on earth. We have to live from the Christ center within us, right?
Yeah.
Like from that heart, from that like how he lived, how he thought, how he existed. That's what we must embody if we want to create that on earth.
Yep, 100%. I think that the book of Revelations and those kind of things about the second coming, I do believe something's going to happen. There's going to be some kind of cataclysm in what we call ETs, what some would call Jesus. Every culture has a different name, or every religion has a different name for the messiahs to come back, or some would call it Anunnaki or whatever. That something's going to happen at some point to change what's going on. I don't know when that's going to happen, but I think that when we read about the book of Revelation and this second coming, I really do feel like it is the embodiment of Christ consciousness, allowing that energy to come and live within your heart and actually sit upon the throne of your heart, to allow Jesus, which is the Prince of Peace, goes back to Melchizedek, goes back to Thoth. Many people say Thoth and Hermes, Melchizedek, Jesus. A lot of people think it's the same entity throughout time, appearing and showing up to different peoples and different nations, showing you how to love, showing you how to live from the heart. And so, yeah, when you have that transformation process, you become literally Jesus walking around on the earth, because you're walking in the renewed mind and the renewed heart of Christ consciousness.
Mm-hmm. I love that you said, well, there's a few things I have to speak to, or I want to speak to, because that was really beautiful. Sitting on the throne of your heart. Oh, yes. Bless yes. Just like take that and make that a slogan or something. Like that's beautiful. This was a different plant medicine experiences. As you can probably tell, I've done a lot of ayahuasca. But there was one time where I was in ceremony, I drank the medicine, I laid down, and I just found myself saying, who am I? Who am I? Who am I? Over and over and over again. And like the Ankh cross Christ consciousness flame seed that was in me from like a year prior from that whole experience suddenly kind of reemerged in my awareness, and it transformed into a throne, and I saw myself sitting on the throne of my heart. So when you said that, it was just like, oh my God, yes 100% on that. Like I've had the experience, and I also wanted to say I resonate a lot with the idea of like the Messiah figure, or the someone or something coming in, intervening, or coming back. And
what is the name they give it in other cultures? And literally it was like images of this guy who showed up with a turban on, he like out of thin air, and they got pictures of him. Starts with an M. It's not Messiah. Come on, Adam Starseed, help me in the chat. What is the name?
Make a note when you come.
What is the name of the Messiah figure? Somebody tell me in chat, but keep going.
Okay, so I really like that. I resonate with it a lot, and it's one of those things for me where I go, it's that believe everything and believe nothing. Like feel it so fully inside of you, but also don't rely on that, right? From that perspective of like, well, I don't have to do anything because Jesus is gonna, or the Messiah is gonna come back and save it, right? Like there's in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, right? Like these are all very interconnected, kind of weaving stories. The Emerald Tablets of Thoth actually describe that a very similar thing to the whole book of Revelations. It was like brothers will rise against brothers, nations will rise against nations. We'll have this giant climactic war among humanity, and that in the midst of that, the children of light will emerge and like rise in the air and like become a voice for the world. And my thinking is like, there's so many ways that this could happen, right? Because if this is relating with another thing that you said, it's like if you embody the Spirit of Christ within you, you become kind of like that Messiah walking on the earth. And I feel like that's true and not true at the same time, from the perspective that we don't yet have the ability to perform miracles like Jesus did, right? Like I can definitively say at this point in time, I have not yet ever walked on water, or healed, raised the dead, or healed the sick kind of thing, right? Like I've healed myself in a very intimate, my own way when I've become sick, but I can't put my hands on you and like suddenly, your flowery roses and your sickness is gone or whatever. So there's like this, that's part of what that nurturing seed is to me, when when that message in the ceremony said, this is a seed, like grow it, nurture it. I feel like if you followed that and nurtured that seed all the way, and this might be a very, very hard process to do, you have to be very devoted to that, nurturing that inner consciousness, that you could get to that point where you could perform miracles. And I almost think of it, I'm trying to understand it like scientifically as well. It's like, well, maybe, it's if you could master it's like there's 4 forces of nature as far as science goes. One is the force of gravity, there's electromagnetism, there's the strong force and the weak force. And like gravity holds massive bodies together and brings like the whole planet, brings us to the planet. The electromagnetic force is like molecules. And then the strong force is like atoms, like what holds atoms together, what holds molecules together, and what holds massive bodies together. And they all work at different scales of the universe. So my thinking is like, well, if you could master the force of gravity within you, then you could fly. But if you could master the electromagnetic force, then you could like bend the elements. You get into Airbender, right? You can actually like move, you could be a waterbender or a firebender and stuff like that. And then when you start mastering the strong force, then you could actually like teleport and move between dimensions and move through time and space. So that's kind of how my perspective is kind of looking at it. But there's a long way to go in how do you master those forces? You have to master yourself. So the question then becomes, well, on this path of ascension, is it going to be where this Messiah figure comes from, let's say another dimension? Maybe it's Thoth, maybe it's Jesus, maybe it's Krishna, maybe it's all 3 of them, or maybe all 3 of them were the same being, right? Maybe it's just this new being that we've never heard. Who knows? Maybe it's an alien. There's so many questions. Maybe there's an intervention in that sense, and then they teach us how to do that, right? Like, because there's probably some very advanced meditative visualization techniques, plant medicine, and all these things that are required to get you there quickly. Maybe it takes lifetime. Maybe it takes 1,000 years for us to be working on this to get there. But it's like a 2 thoughts in my mind. One, maybe it's that kind of intervention, but maybe on the other side, maybe it's actually something that we can attain to. And maybe that intervention is actually us. Maybe it's like, if you and I were to go and do this like crazy intensive meditation practice with medicine and the breath work and all these different things, and we really devoted ourselves to that, and we learned how to master the force of gravity, and we could actually levitate, then we become the ones in the stories who have come to intervene. Like, it's the consciousness moving through us to make that change, rather than something that's already attained mastery coming down. And that's like a question for me of like, I wonder which way it'll go, if any, right? Like, there's a lot of possibilities, and I personally just kind of tried to stay open to it and walk on that path the best that I can, because I'm still human. Like, I still, will succumb to enjoying pizza once in a blue moon, and I'm like, is that against my spiritual journey? Like, I mean, it definitely makes me feel heavy after, but man, it was good. And then still just trying to, I guess, grow and evolve and walk the path as best as I can is really what I feel is just in the journey that I'm on right now anyways.
Yeah.
And to answer your question, I feel like
yeah, man. For sure. I mean, it's definitely interesting to talk about these theories and stuff, and the chat's going crazy right now. The name of the word I was looking for was the Maitreya. The Maitreya.
Oh, yeah.
And so Manly P. Hall has a book called Spaceborne, and there's a beautiful poem that he wrote in there called "The Lord Maitreya Speaks." And so when I read that, it's the Christ, whatever you want to, the Messiah, whether it's the Messiah within or Messiah without, or if it's a person or if it's you, it's all the same to me. Which it's real on every dimension, right? The highest form of love that can come and live in your heart, kind of thing. And so, I mean, that in itself, My friend here, Amanda, says we do have access to miracles today. The whole thing about Christianity, that like everything was looking forward to in the Old Testament, was like this coming of the Messiah, right? How is he gonna come? What is he gonna do? What kind of a ruler is he gonna be? And those kind of things. And so in the New Testament, you have which is Christ in us is the hope of glory. It's like that Spirit of Christ that has come to live inside of us. And so the Apostle Paul and some of the other writers talk about like everything that we were waiting for is revealed in that Spirit, this Messiah living in me and igniting that flame. We have these little flames within us, right? But a lot of times it takes what we would call a prophet or a seer or somebody who channeled that through a great documentary series, some art, some music, that I just got it, and they blow upon that flame that is within you. And so it is Christ in me, living in me, that is the hope of glory, it says. And so everything that was expected and all of the rules and regulations is like something taking place within, to walk in love, like at its highest degree, to really be the Messiah, whether it's the Messiah of the world, the Messiah of your city, your family, be the force of change to really respond with love, to really overcome the ego, is through that really Christ consciousness. And so let me ask you about this. When you had that encounter with that fire, with that flame coming in, what accompanied it? Was it tears? Was it shaking? Was it joy? Was it love? Or was it just some like inner knowing? What did you experience when that happened?
At various points in that evening, all of the above. But one of the most definitive things that came through with that was awareness of the breath. Was this extreme awareness of how like the breath is the movement of energy through that space, and that through, it's like sort of this heart breath connection or something that it was like extreme presence to the energy that's moving through you. And look at how easily it is that we distract ourselves to have shallow breathing. Like in that moment, after, like throughout kind of the rest of the evening after that seed was planted, I remember continually like feeling, it was just like feeling my breath, being super present with it. And then noticing like I would have some other thoughts or some awareness, and my mind would go. And then the medicine or the spirit of, everything that was moving through me was just like, oh, look at how distracted you've become. Look at how disconnected you become. Bring it back. I'd be very present with it again. And then it would distract again. It would be like half breathing again. It was like, and this became this continual practice of like, how present can you stay with your breath and still function in the world on a daily basis? Because that presence is required in order to respond with the fullness of spirit to anything that happens. That like when our breath is shallow, our whole, how to describe this? When our breath is shallow, our mind is shallow, and we respond very distinctly without a fullness of presence, basically, I think is the whole place that I went there.
Sorry, I had to let my dog out. He's freaking out.
It's all good.
I use the bathroom.
Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, the Christ energy, the light, performing miracles. There's a bunch of comments here in the chat. I've seen miracles, man. I've seen, at least it was my perception of a miracle. You know what I'm saying? I mean, synchronicity is a miracle, but we start learning the science of it. I literally seen a little kid get hit by a car and fly 15 foot. And I ran over to him and I started praying and put my hands on him and commanded him to be healed. And he got up, and he was like 6 years old and flew 16 foot. They took him to the hospital, and they let him go that same night. Just had some scratches. And so for me, in my mind, I was shook. I've never seen nothing like that in my life. And he was right in front of me. And
that's beautiful.
Surreal. Oh God, what just happened? And so
I feel. Sorry. No, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I'm just like, for me, like in my mind, it was a miracle, right? And so that's how many. I think for a lot of people, other people will say, well, yep, it hit him the right way. He was okay. But for me, it's like for me, it was a miracle. And I've got so many like divine appointments, whether it's like shooting fire out of your hands or commanding the winds and waves and stuff like that. I mean, it just depends, I guess, on what we think, miracles are or what they look like, or healing. I think you being able to lead a guided meditation and lead other people towards healing, like that's a miracle. You know what I'm saying? And just being able to see the beauty in it all.
I appreciate that a lot. And I feel in this moment too, especially with all the comments that are coming in, I should probably just clarify what I meant when I was saying like the inability to perform miracles, meaning specifically like, at least at this point in time, I have not yet, or I haven't seen someone definitively do the walking on water sort of thing.
Yeah.
But that's not to say that miracles don't exist and are not real. Like,
yeah,
absolutely. And I think your story is a very beautiful example of it. And I see things like, I see miraculous and synchronistic things happening a lot. And so it's very inspiring to think that that's where it could go as well. In the sense of like, one day in the future, we don't need boats anymore because we can just fly across the ocean or walk across the lake or whatever, like have a picnic out in the middle of the water. Like that's such a cool, I love that idea. And that was kind of what I was speaking to, was like the things that are getting into supernatural.
Yeah.
But I guess even in that sense, we still have some kind of synchronicities that are a little supernatural, that are beautiful.
Yeah,
like in your story, what would have happened if you weren't there? Would that kid have had the
same thing? Who knows? You know what I'm saying? Again, or not.
It's not a controlled test, exactly.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, just going back to miracles and how they happen. Like, what did they understand? Like, Jesus talked to the wind all the time. He talked to the wind and the waves and the water, and he commanded the winds and waves, and people were blown away. Like, who is this man that even the winds and waves obeyed him? And you're talking about, Avatar and earth bending and fire bending and water bending. And I got friends who literally practice, and they're pretty good at going out and getting the wind to blow and move pinwheels. And like, they got it on camera, and they teach people how to do it. And it's like, I wonder if their connection with the elements was a little bit stronger than what we have today. They understood that nature was a spirit, and they had a relationship with it. And these are some conversations that we're having now. They had a relationship with the rain. They had a relationship with the wind and the waves and the ground and the trees and stuff, and they knew that it was alive and it was a living being. And so when they talked to them or commanded it, because whether they understand their authority, they was able to see things happen. The problem we get into now, like, I'm for miracles, I want them to happen, but I'm a healthy skeptic as well, because with the notion of miracles and religion and signs and wonders and things like that, which I still believe in, but you deal with a lot of people faking them, and in the religious realm, like that'll sell tickets, buddy. That'll give a hefty donation if someone gets healed or stands out of a wheelchair, or I've seen straight arms turned straight, and they were fake healings. They were set up, and there was a decoy, if you will, in the audience. And so when it runs for us looking for a sign and a wonder and a miracle, we're easily tricked because we want them to happen. So I think there's a healthy skepticism that has to be there. But the healthy skepticism, I think, allows you to really have a true mystical experience, because you're not trying to make it up. Like, you really want this to be legit. And for me, it's allowed me to step into some really cool experiences that changed my life.
Yeah, I appreciate that a lot. And no, I think that healthy skepticism is important because of that charlatan kind of reason. And then there's are you familiar with a book called it's Illusions, The Adventures of a Reluctant Messiah?
Have not.
Oh, it's an absolutely amazing book about like a modern day Messiah who he was being the Messiah. He was like healing people and, performing miracles and stuff. And the masses just were like just throwing themselves at him in the sense of saying like, heal me, give me blessings, give me this, give me that. And none of them wanted to learn how to be a Messiah. They all wanted him to solve all of their problems for them, or wanted him to solve their problems. So eventually he's like, screw this, I'm done. And he basically like, he I don't know, he materializes himself or gets himself like a plane, and he just like, flies across North America, just like giving out plane rides and being like a normal person. So he's like a reluctant Messiah. And then he meets someone. The story is basically about him meeting someone, and it's told from the perspective of that someone who like meets this Messiah, and he starts learning like what it means to be a Messiah and how performing miracles works. And they do this really funny thing where they like at one point both walk on water and then swim in the earth. Like they sink into the earth and start swimming in it as if it's liquid. But it's a really good example though of like where that mass consciousness is at, in the sense of wanting someone else to save them, not being able or willing not being able or willing to really go inside and do the work yourself to evolve your consciousness and reach that level, being able to do the miracles yourself.
Yeah, that's the big difference there, and that's what those are the different. That's the two differences for the Christians that I encounter. Are the ones who, Jesus did it, he saved me, which is good. Like I'm with it. It helps to have the external power, but you have to, the story is not real if you don't put yourself in it. Like if you don't, he says you got to take up your cross and follow me. Like you got to do what I did. You got to love the unlovable. You have to show grace. You have to go out there and do good deeds and do good works. And like, if you don't, then it's kind of all in vain, so those are the two differences there with Christians and Christian mystics, or spiritual Christians, I guess, if you will, who know that feel like they have some stake in it as well, like that they have a say-so in it. And it's, such a transformation that they've encountered that they would be selfish to hold it in and keep it from people, whatever even if that is a plant ceremony. And that's what it was for me. Like when I got converted and became a Christian, like it changed my life, and I was telling everybody, because it was really beautiful, and you couldn't shut me up. I pissed people off, and then now I'm a Christian who has a plant ceremony journey, and it changed my life even more, and allowed me to step in and walk in my purpose and be in the moment and be present. Things that you won't learn. It's in the Bible now that I've studied other paths and I go back and read the scriptures. I'm like, oh damn, that's what he's talking about. Like there's a bunch of stuff that you can't interpret. You need to go back and read Egyptian books. You need to read other philosophies and then read the Bible and okay, that makes sense, because they actually had a practice that embodied what they're talking about that came from the mystery schools. And you don't know that unless you're at least studied somewhat in mystery schools. And so it teaches you how to discern those things. And so it just becomes real for you. And so I begin to do the same thing with plant medicines and I don't know, preach, but just share it. Hey man, this can help you, and so if it's anything that someone thinks can help, and if I would to give you a different, antidote or hold it back because I think you won't like me, whether that's my faith in Christ and that experience and connecting with Jesus or plant ceremonies. I'm in this weird in between, because the Christians, they hear about plant medicines and spirit teachers and Etherians and aliens and UFOs, and a lot of them are off, but it's there's a lot of people waking up and coming out of religion asking the bigger questions, and so they tune into podcasts like these.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's really valuable, man. Like what you do with this podcast and what you're sharing it's like a necessary voice for exactly that audience, like those people who are starting to maybe question things, but like maybe one foot in the door, one foot out, like not sure what to believe, because we've been conditioned from such a young age to believe very definitively certain belief systems and whatnot. So
awakening's hard, man, and there's people having it in religion, and it's hard. You feel like you're going crazy. The majority feel like I have nobody to talk to. That's bad when you feel like this entire world you don't have nobody to confide in, and most of them, they can't even confide in their God or Christ anymore because they've been told that they're a heretic, or because you believe that or because you did that, then you're kicked out of this thing that you didn't even let me in. You know what I'm saying? So just being there I'm just trying to be that voice that I needed when I was a younger person, having those experiences and didn't have any. And I would listen to podcasts and I would call in and ask questions and what is this? What is that? What is this? And so just trying to be that voice for the younger version of myself. And I'm sure a part of you's doing the same. Like when you were younger, instead of watching Homestar, what if you were watching Spirit Science? You know what I'm saying? Like, where would you be now?
That's, I don't know if this is just a pure miraculous synchronicity or if you actually saw the video, but this morning I posted a video called A Letter to My Younger Self, or a quantum letter to my younger self.
I didn't.
And it's literally like a 10-minute piece about like, if I could send a letter through time to a multidimensional version of like a young version of me, this is what I would say. And it's literally like what you just described.
Wow.
That's really funny.
It works. Again, man, I'll go ahead and let you go. I enjoyed it. I'm up to do it, down to do it whenever you want. Let me know, bro. And much success. And thank you for everything that you're doing, because you're inspiring a lot of people and doing a lot of good deeds and good works. And you can trace it back to the awakening that people say. All I got to do is mention your name. Everybody knows who you are and what you bring to the table. So it's just a blessing and honor to have you on my platform hanging out.
Thank you so much for having me, Truth. This was great. This was really fun. I love doing this, and let's do it again soon. And we got the Spirit Science podcast coming up, so let's get you on that show.
Let's do it. Make it happen, bro. Thanks so much, man.
Thanks. Have a good one.
All right, you too. Shalom, shalom. Peace. Jordan River, ladies and gentlemen, Spirit Science. You know who he is. If you don't, Google it now and make sure. Yeah, let's check out the the piece he did about the letter to my younger self. That's what it's about. That's why I do it. I look into this camera, this little webcam here, and I talk to that. I go back in time and I talk to that younger version of myself. Look, man, get your stuff together. Do it, man. Don't care what they say. You can do it. It's in you. Good stuff. And shout out to everybody hanging out with us in the chat. A bunch of really cool conversation, really cool comments and chats here. Amanda, Savayam Baba, Crix, see you there. Fred, so many people. Rainer, Adam, Starseed, shout out. It's been really good. Man, I want to just a little update too. The men's retreat is sold out. Men's retreat is sold out for anybody who was wanting to come and get in on our August men's retreat. It's already sold out. There may be something open up at the end of the year. We may do one more, fourth quarter pressure. May do one more men's retreat or retreat. Maybe co-ed. Who knows? We'll see what happens. May do one more treat at the end of the year. So any of you guys who was not able to get in on any of the first ones, or if you came to one of the first ones and you want to get in on one of our retreats, make sure you hit me up and we'll make it happen. Also too, like we released the homeless video again, and that was just a fun experience. Thank you again to everybody who donated to that. And I released the video, and people are already donating to see another one. They want to see another one, and I'm ready to do another one. So if you want to give to that, you want to see another video and have your name mentioned in the video, given shout out, because man, money is interesting, and money is a tool. We need to look at money differently. Money comes and goes. It's like, you can never, those who seek after money will never have enough. But looking at it as a resource to get you places, to as an exchange of energy, your relationship with money changes. Your relationship with mammon, it's not your God. It's not money is not evil. People quote all the time, money is the root of all evil. That's not the scripture. The scripture says it's the love of money is the root of all evil. Well, people will do inconspicuous, dark things to trick you, to get money out of you, such as performing fake miracles in a church to get you to give. That's demonic. It's the highest form of dark occult witchcraft there is. It's pulling trickery to deceive to get money from people. So change your relationship on how you see money and see finances. Money comes and goes. As long as you're just you allow it to flow to you and through you, keep giving, it's going to keep coming. God loves a cheerful giver, the scripture says. And as long as you're not trying to hoard it, scarcity, understand, like have that relationship with the change, give it away as much as you receive, sow into good ground. You're trading into something. You're sowing into something. I believe you get I really do. Like, I believe you get a harvest back on it. I believe that you share in it. I really do. Store up for yourselves treasures in heaven. I believe that when you give anything, it doesn't even have to be financially, but financially it applies as well. When you trade into something, that this would not be possible if you didn't. Now I have some trade in that. I have some stake or stock in what you're doing. Spiritually, it's called, we break it down to dealing with the law of manifestation, but more specifically, the law of compensation. Look it up, understand it. The scriptures are all, there's so many Bible scriptures talking about this stuff. And again, if you don't read this other material about universal law and you just take it for what it is, it could be hard to understand. But I believe there's an investment when you give. I believe that it comes back, shaken down, pressed together, and running over. And God will pour out a blessing. The universe will pour out a blessing, so much so that you can't even contain it. You'll have too much unless you hold it up. Because if your cup is already full, you don't have anywhere to receive. But you have to give in order to receive. That's just how it works, man. Do it. Try it. Money comes and goes, man. It ain't no thing. So I appreciate everybody who, supports the podcast. But then again, with the homeless thing, that, it was a few dollars from a lot of different people, but that really blessed that dude, man. And changed his day. I don't know if it changed his life. Let's hope. I feel like there's no way you can forget that, no matter who you are. I don't care if you wasn't homeless. I don't care if you're making decent money or working your butt off and somebody just picks you up and just spends $1,000 on you, like out of the blue, random. I'd never forget that. It's a miracle. You are the miracle. Miracles do happen. They are real. You are a miracle. You can become I even was toying with the idea of us even introducing ourselves with angel names. Hey man, my name's Gabriel. This is Michael. Hey, what's up, man? Because my name is irrelevant, right? It doesn't matter who I am. Because you may not, and people are like, I hope you follow up with them. I hope you become friends. And I hope you, I get a lot of that. I hope you see it through. I hope you help them get off the street. No, it ain't about that. It's about a random act of kindness. A random act of kindness that there's no way you can forget. And it doesn't matter who did it, where it came from. But thank you guys it was a vision I had. I put it out there. Wasn't even something really big, like a big deal. It was just like I've seen those videos and wanted to make one myself and knew that I didn't have that kind of money to just go out and do that by myself, and said, hey, if you guys would like to see it, let's do it. And people gave generously to it, and they're still giving because they want to see more videos. Anyway, if you haven't seen it, go check out my homeless video on my page. Just scroll down. It's like blessing a homeless person, homeless makeover, I think we called it. And we're going to do more, and it's going to be fun. God loves a cheerful giver. Again, it wasn't my money that I was given. I got to be in the video. You got to see me, but that wasn't my money. I did put in like $100. I think I was the first donation of $100, but, of my personal money, but you sharing that, man, that blessing, trace it back. Sometimes it's money, sometimes it's not. It's helping people. I remember so many years I didn't have any money to help. I didn't have any money to give. Like $5 was a lot of money. I remember being in places where like I couldn't even stop and get a soft drink at the store because I had no money. My daughter is in the car thirsty when she was younger, begging for something to drink. And I'm just frustrated because I don't have any money. I can't stop and get you a water. I can't stop and get you a Coke or whatever it was, chocolate milk. Tummy yummy. But your relationship with money has to change. You ain't supposed to be out here begging. Get your stuff together, change that relationship. Jordan has ways for you to do that. It really has to happen. People, listen, they're vicious, man. Paul was a tent maker. Apostle Paul, he made tents because he wouldn't ask, or people wouldn't give. So he had to make tents. He lived in them tents too. So, what do you have to make? Are you a tent maker? Make a tent. What do you do? You're a painter. You're an artist. What do you have to offer? Do it. There's so many scriptures about you're using your gifts and your abilities to make money. That you're your gifts and your abilities will make room for you, and they will put you in front of great men. Your ability to tell fortunes, to when I say tell fortunes, interpret dreams, read palms. I don't know what you're good at. Read auras, look at somebody and just know things about them. Your gifts will put you in front of great people, take you in front of kings. That's a promise. The scripture says, I've given you the ability to gain wealth. Well, why are you broke? Hey, you can't give nothing that you don't have. Going back to the faith without works is dead. Praying for you, man. Okay. When you have the ability to help that person. Money's deep. We're going to be talking about it a lot more. I don't want to see nobody out here broke, busted, and disgusted. There's things that you have in your reach right now. Boom. Cell phone. You can do all kind of stuff with this thing. You can go live and have 1,000. There are people that all they do is push live and they got 2,000 people watching them. Boom, boom. Affiliate link. Whatever. Come on, man. I'm giving y'all too much already. Work with me now. Check it out. If you want to support, patreon.com/TruthSeekah. Get with us, man. We are getting closer to 200 patrons. When we hit 200, we're having a party. We're having a party. We're doing a concert, online concert. We might do a physical concert. I don't know. But we're going to do a concert, and I'm letting you guys pick all the songs. Whatever song you want to hear. Patron only. My book is here. Get it. Spirit Realm, Angels, Demons, Spirits, and the Sovereignty of God. Let's let Jordan Maxwell talk a little bit about what's in it.
Elementals are different. Elementals are really strange. I've seen elementals. I've had one-on-one experience with elementals. I don't know exactly what they are. All I know is what to call them. But I've had incidents where I have been in the company of elementals. They're spirit creatures, like fairies, and the Irish are very big on talking about the different fairies and the different magical little creatures. Leprechauns, I have seen gnomes and leprechauns. And fairies, these are what we call the elementals. They are legitimately life forms, but they don't live in the world you do. They live in a different kind of world, an elemental world. So we call them the elementals. It's quite a subject. Life outside of being a human. What is life like in the spirit world? And that's what you're talking about in your book.
I explore these concepts and more in my new book, Spirit Realm, Angels, Demons, Spirits, and the Sovereignty of God. Forward by Jordan Maxwell. Available now at TruthSeekah.com. Well, you heard the man. Get your copy. Peace and shalom. Love you guys. We'll do it again tomorrow. Peace.
Your way so much higher than mine, so much higher than mine, so much deeper than mine, so much deeper than mine.
Well, that does it for this episode, folks. To hear more episodes of the TruthSeekah podcast, head over to TruthSeekah.com. And if you're wanting to support the show and get rewards, go to our Patreon page at patreon.com/TruthSeekah.